Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is the problem with feminism. So, for this video, I'll discuss the problem with feminism. And what I hope to accomplish with this video is provide an alternate view for things instead of just this typical worldview we tend to be presented, specifically when it comes to issues like feminism, okay? So, this will provide an alternate view to kind of help open people's minds to not just hearing one side of the story, but hearing both sides of the story. Okay, so now I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the problem with feminism, what is the problem with feminism? The two main points I'll be discussing for this video. The first main point when it comes to the problem with feminism is that it tends to not acknowledge the effed up things or messed up things that women do. Because the truth of the matter is, as I'm certain a lot of people who've been in school, particularly people who actually, well, don't know a lot of people, and so on and so forth, which actually this happens a lot more often than you imagine, is that us men, well, not even necessarily me, but men in general who tend not to be known by a lot of people and have a lot of friends, specifically in the past, have actually experience bullying or straight up harassment from females, okay? And that is something that, of course, that I feel society tends to not really feel comfortable with acknowledging, but it does happen actually a lot more often than you think it does. And the point I'm trying to get here, aside from just this one specific, um, sub point, if anything, I'm trying to get at here, is that this is you know, um, the reason why in life you have to listen to different sides of the story and not just one freaking side of the story, to put it bluntly, in all honesty. Because the truth of the matter is, not only does it just consist of women bullying other men, in all honesty, and harassing, which obviously is messed up because God forbid you punch them back or fight back for that matter in general, then they're trying to get you in trouble. It also comes down to other things as well related to that, like for example, how women treat men who try to, pick them up in a relationship. Like you go up to them and say, hey, yo, man, hey, you want to go on a date, and how some of them laugh at you and they make fun of you for anywhere from weeks to month, over a month, and even more when you try to ask them out or something like that. Or it can just come down to the fact that sometimes women in general, I don't know if it happens as much as it used to, but it did used to happen quite often, when you be walking alone, particularly if you're a male and you're walking alone and you're just randomly be minding your own business in any random place, and there's these a group of girls who just speak because they're the group, they can talk shit and they would say things like, who's this fat ass, or say things like, move out of the way, you're walking too slow, and all this rude ass shit for no reason. Aside from those specific examples, the main point, which I said I was getting at, is that the problem with feminism, the first main problem with feminism, out of the two main points I'm getting for this video, is that it just tends not to acknowledge the messed up things women do. It always wants to paint them from the perspective of the picture that, if you guys don't do this, from the perspective of that we're the perfect victim. As usual, the media is responsible for always doing that. We're the perfect victim. We don't do anything wrong, but tends to ignore the messed up things that they do to a lot of men, and they don't get caught for it. And if anything, if they get in trouble, they get a slap on the wrist. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get across here. Now, what exactly is the main point I'm trying to get across here? Is that what the main point I'm trying to get across here is that if we are gonna try as men, especially men who've been through a lot and whatnot, yada yada yada, cliches, nerds, geeks, whatever you like to say, not popular, blah 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 blah. But why should us men, okay, men in general for that matter, who've been through a lot, and you don't know in general what anyone's been through, feel the need to feel sorry for someone who um, claims that or they're being discriminated against because they're a female, all that type of stuff, yet they don't acknowledge the messed up things that they do to other people. Because this is actually also, as a whole, brings up another issue as a problem with feminism, is that feminism is this idea of let's help the other 50% of the population that has been under oppression. But anyone who knows anything about human behavior and issues for that matter knows that if you have 50% of anything, of a population of anything, you're going to have a lot of them who cause problems. And that's kind of a problem I have with feminism. It tries to paint people, under this, people in general who are female as the perfect victim and all this type of stuff, yet ignores the things that allow them to do it, specifically since half the population of any place, of course, obvious common sense would indicate, is female. So as a result, it ignores the fucked up things that they do, the messed up things that they do, and it still expects people to feel sympathy for them, for that matter. And that's the biggest first problem with feminism, is that if you truly want things to be better, then acknowledge the messed up things some of your people, of course, do. And they don't do that. Everything is about I'm the victim, I'm the victim, I'm the victim. But what about the messed up things you do? Has a problem with it. And what my first main point, if you really want to know what my first main point is that if you want people to feel sorry for you, you have to call out the ones who cause the problems. Because I just don't really see the point in dealing with someone who a lot of them disrespect me, but at the same time they don't do anything for me. Or I should say, for that matter, you know, when I go out of my way to help them, they don't get rights, they're still not willing to call out the ones who cause the problems. And that's the first point. The second point I want to get across when it comes to the problem with feminism is that it tends to not acknowledge the fact that for high power positions, because this is one of the biggest problems with feminism, of course, absolutely is a very big problem with feminism, is this whole notion that, oh, let's give women the same rights, let's have a female president, let's have women in powerful executive positions, women in the military in powerful positions, and yada yada yada. But it still doesn't acknowledge the fact that when you do those particular types of jobs, you have to be willing to make very hard decisions. And this is the biggest problem with it, because this is the thing I always find ironic about feminists, okay? And this one is definitely the best point of the 2 points for this video, which is that on one hand, they want to say that they want to have the same position as everyone else, as men for that matter, to be more specific. But at the same time, they always say that they don't want us to be too much. They always say that women are special in their own way because they give it a things from a feminine, sensitive perspective, which obviously feminine sensitive perspective means, of course, no surprise from a female perspective, a more emotional perspective. But when you're in positions of jobs like that, like, how are you going to deal with jobs like that, especially jobs that serious, when one of the worst things to actually do when you're in situations like that is get emotional? That's a question I want to ask. Because if you're a president or someone who works in a military or any high power position, you will have to realize at some point some of the things you are doing will affect other people. And what I mean by affect other people, it will get people killed. It doesn't matter how much you plan or how much you try to prevent things, whether you're a president of the United States and you want to prevent people from, of course, getting killed by a militia group or something like that, and you have to press a button that is literally gonna give people the thumbs up to, of course, shoot missiles, which, of course, no surprise, is gonna kill the militants and stuff, and sometimes even civilians in the process. Or it could be maybe you're a powerful company, and some of the things you do, like for example, when it comes to running, cars or something, or anything big for that matter, maybe even related to the internet, you already know that what you are going to do is going to have some people killed, or in other words, die as a result of what you do. It doesn't matter how well you do. If you run a car company, in honesty, a car company, for example, some of the mistakes you made could literally cost anywhere from dozens to hundreds of lives throughout the whole world. It doesn't matter how well smart or how calculating you are. Everything you do will have someone possibly die. Can a woman handle the pressure of that pain without crying and getting emotional? And that's what they don't ask. And that's a problem with feminism, is that if you really want to be treated equally as men, you have to go through the same pain and suffering that men go through, and not just cry about it and hope someone's going to save you and help you. And that's the thing feminists are not willing to answer, Okay, I'm not saying women can't be treated better. They absolutely could be treated better, but there's just being treated better on a ground to ground basis versus having more power and status. And that's exactly what I have to say about this particular topic. And as to what they're not willing to answer. And a result, that is simply the point of the matter, okay? When it comes to this particular issue, okay? So in short, this is my video. This is all I have to say. And simply put it, if you like this video and videos like this, remember to thumb this video up and hit the subscribe button. And this is all that there is to say. And simply put it, I'm out. And just remember, if there's one more thing to also say, just remember, if you want to be treated equal, you have to call out the bullshit some of your people do, as well as be willing to go through the strife that men go through. And that is all. Bye.